course to Switzerland.
You're out of it.
We get out of it.
Yeah.
But
now you used the word flak a minute ago, and I think a lot of the students know.
well, that's
what
really
you mean,
heavy
but
flak. We saw that over Berlin, but
yeah.
most of the time I have a picture here showing. This was taken from one of the B-17s that was flying. This is our plane right here, and we're dropping the bombs. And there's some planes up here. This is some of the anti-aircraft fire, but we're flying over cloud cover, and they were shooting at us by radar. And in the plane, our radio operator had a little chute there, and he had little bundles of chaff that he'd shove out that chute. Well, they look kind of like Christmas tinsel, only they had a stiffener on the back. And when they would fall, the Germans would shoot. You could see them shooting at that flak, that chaff.
Because the radar picked that up.
It'd make a blip on our radar screen, and they'd just be banging away at that chaff.
Yeah.
Instead of shooting at us. So it was a pretty good deal. Of course, early on, if it was visual, boy, they shooting at you. And two of my missions was to Berlin, and they was really, they were really after us there. And it was a visual mission. And we lost several, we didn't lose, but there were several planes in other groups. I could see them going down, you know. And
wow.
The crews bailing out.
Is it true? I mean, was it just sort of a habit to count the number of parachutes that you'd see? Yeah,
we counted. It was supposed to be at that time 9 parachutes, but we only counted 8, and so one of them didn't make it out. Yeah. I think what might happen is his shroud lines fouled up, and that chute wouldn't open.
Now, of your 19 missions, how many of those missions did you take flak of some kind?
Well, nearly all of them got some, but our navigator was so good. I was telling you, he'd been a higher math teacher, and he could plot those courses. He knew where the flak installations were, and he could take us around them. And he was one of the best navigators I ever did see.
I'll ask another couple questions, then we'll see if there are questions out here. Did you have any missions? You mentioned the one mission where your plane was damaged a little bit by flak. Was that the closest call for you?
I think it was that mission where this picture was, where I showed you this picture. This picture was taken from another plane in the group. And this is I was back here in this tail right here, and a piece of shrapnel came through the tail right behind my head. It was a hole about that big. I didn't have on my flak helmet, but the good Lord was watching over me.
How close would you say that was?
Oh, about 6 inches behind my head.
Wow.
It went in one side of the tail and out the other. I didn't know it until, well, I saw the thing go off, but I didn't know we'd been hit until I felt the cold air on the back of my neck.
Because the glass had broken?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
But we had real good electric heated suits, and although it was 30-some below zero, the suit was had boots. Well, they're kind of felt things, and they snap to your suit, and the same way with your gloves. And we had just fatigues over them. But I had a rheostat down here, and I kept it turned off most of the time because it was down low. It was such a good system. But we had a backup thing in our B2 bag in case something happened to our electric. We could get in some those heavy, weren't fleece line, but they had that insulating stuff on the inside. But
how long was an average mission? I put up a map here. You're flying out of England, and your missions are over Germany. You've got the one mission there over Berlin. How long is that mission to, let's say, Berlin, how long does that take you to get to Berlin for your mission there?
Well, we'd leave England before daylight, and we'd, of course, those planes didn't fly but 200 and some miles an hour, so we'd usually rendezvous or get in a group over France,
Okay.
and we'd try to bomb whatever target we was going to about high noon, and
Wow.
that's when we did most of the bombing.
So about 5 or 6 hours in the air before
Yeah.
you get to your target.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I always have is, I mean, you know what's coming, and especially if you're going over a high-value target like Berlin, you know you're going to face flak.
Yeah.
And 5 hours is a long time to think about that.
Mhm.
And so my question is, do you think about that, or how do you fill that time? Because you're the tail gunner, so you know you're not the navigator. You don't have stuff to keep you busy constantly, I'm guessing. How do you fill 5 or 6 hours when you know that you're heading into a situation where you're going to have 88s coming at you and
Well,
all that?
of course, I was a Christian, and the Lord took care of us. All the guys. This little radio operator, sometimes he'd be going on a mission that I wasn't on, and he'd come wake me up and want me to pray with him. I give God the glory for watching over us, because we had other crews that lost people.
Yeah,
So it's,
that's a long time.
yeah,
So you spend that time praying, thinking about home.
yeah, well, just keeping my eye out, you know, for anything. But like I say, the fighter planes didn't come up there by the time I got over there. I didn't get over there. My first mission was 64 years Valentine's Day, this past Valentine's Day. That was my first mission.
Wow.
In 1945, Valentine's Day of 1945, and we bombed. We went over way over towards the Russian lines to a place called Dresden,
Yeah.
and we bombed Dresden with incendiary bombs.
You were part of the raid on Dresden.
Mhm.
Oh.
And that was my first mission. But they had the crew, the bomb group had bombed them the day before too, and the English was coming in at night bombing them. When we'd be coming back, they'd be going over. They'd do their bombing at night. And so Dresden was bombed 4 times, twice by us, and of course I was just on one of those missions,
Yeah.
and twice by the English. And I've got a book at home that talks about that mission,
Yeah.
and it said that the reason we bombed it is because the Russians was wanting us to bomb it to demoralize the people.
Right.
That they were fighting them over on the east side, and we was on the west, and of course the Italians at that time, they was pretty well wiped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you just sort of mentioned, that's one part of the war where there's a question, you know, why did Dresden get hit? But I think Churchill said, you know, we're trying to demoralize the
I
people.
don't think
So
it was necessary, but I think the Russians wanted us to bomb it.
yeah.
But actually, it was a beautiful city of lots of cathedrals,
Yeah.
and they said, I read later on that one of the cathedrals, a lot of people was in it, and it was so badly destroyed, they just left it there with all the people that died in it.
Inside. Did you know what the targets were before you
Yeah,
went?
we had
You were
briefing
briefed?
before the pilots and the co-pilots and the navigator and bombardier, they had a separate briefing, and us gunners had a briefing telling us what we could expect.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd go out to the plane, and I had to put in my 2 50 caliber machine guns in the tail, and then I also put 2 in the chin turret for the bombardier and navigator.
Hmm.
And so I was responsible for putting 4 guns in, and every night when we come back to land, you have to take them out and check them and put them in a box. We had a box there beside the hard stand that we put the guns in.
Have you talked about the war in a public forum like this before?
No.
This is your first time?
Just to him, folks.
Yeah. How often does the war come to your mind in one way or another? You know, some veterans say they never think about it. Others say in one way or another it comes to my mind every day. How about for you?
Well, actually, I'm concerned about this crew, and we have never got together as a crew. I always wished the pilot would have called a reunion so we could all got together. But he was promoted, and Brown became the first pilot, and they got another pilot, which I didn't know. This happened after see, when the war was over, they took our planes and they stripped them of all the armor, and they put bench seats in them, and they flew down to Marseille, France, and they was taking displaced persons that were displaced from their homes and everything, and flying them across the Mediterranean to a staging area, and they sent them all over the world. A lot of them went to South America, the displaced person. In fact, the guy that was third in command, Adolf Gilliland, he was the head of the fighter outfit. He ended up down in South America, and after I was, one of my buddies had got a book written by him, and he let me read it, and they were within 6 months of having that rocket.
The Germans?
Germans were, that would have reached the United States. But
any questions? Any students want to ask some questions?
Well, would you describe the relationship with the Mustangs? Those Mustangs that flew beside you?
oh yeah, they came along beside us, and we called them little friends, because they fly with us. You know, early on, the fighters were stationed in England, but when they took some of France, they moved the fighter bases over to France, and they could follow us all the way into the target. And
so you had fighter escort in addition to
yeah,
right?
yeah. And they would go down when we was bombing. They'd go down and strafe, and come back up and take us back to where their base was in France, and then we was on our own from then on. But like I say, it was a different story when I got there. Some of the guys that was there early, they lost a lot of planes. The Germans got the idea, instead of coming in on a pursuit curve and ending up on the tail, they'd hide up here in the sun, and the planes was usually heading east, and they'd dive down and strafe the planes and go back up and get ready to strafe the next group that was coming through. And they knocked a lot of planes out doing that.
You didn't see a lot of the, you just saw the one fighter, but you've got the artillery coming up, and you know, I've talked to other guys who served in the Air Corps, and they said those Germans were good.
Mm-hmm.
They were pretty accurate with their 88s. They knew what they were doing.
If they could see you, they could hit you. And they had a lot of young people manning those flak guns, and they used to be able to move them around. There was a radio program that came on and called Axis Annie, and she knew where we was going before we did, and she would tell it.
This was German propaganda, and then it would be broadcast to you.
They broadcast where our target was going to be. So, and they had, early on, they had ability to move those flak installations to that target. But by the time I got there, a lot of them the railroads was messed up, and highways, they couldn't move them, but they had some permanent installations already there, and they sure get you if they could see you. But like I was showing you that we was flying over that cloud cover, and we actually bombed by radar. We had a PFF dome underneath the first couple planes, and they could, after we got on the bomb run, the pilot put it on, turned it over to the bombardier, and on that northern bomb site, they could actually control that airplane with that, as he moved, keep the target in.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful thing that.
Any questions? Go ahead, Spencer.
You said you didn't necessarily join the Army Air Corps because you're really patriotic, but once you got there in Europe and started flying missions, did you feel more or less patriotism, like more or less of a just cause for America?
Well, you know, like I said earlier on, I had a selfish motive about joining. I wanted to learn to fly. And I look back now and sometimes I think war is a bad thing. I mean, but we just keep getting into them. Well, we're into something over there now. My oldest great-grandson is got over to, what is it? Afghanistan, yeah. And he just got back and they're talking about sending him back. And of course, the new president wants to increase the number of troops in Afghanistan. And what's real sad is we just get out of one thing and another, and our young men are drug out, and, you know, and put in. Well, it's a volunteer service now, but a lot of them are going to that because they join the service so they can get some school money for school.
Right.
And I don't blame them. Of course, when I got back, I had the GI Bill, but I didn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
But we started raising a family, and I couldn't see going to school and trying to raise a family. And jobs were awful hard to find, and I just wonder about these boys that come back. Where will they be put? You know, you know that there's a recession. It's supposed to be so bad. If they turn a bunch of them loose, I don't know what they'll do. Because I couldn't find a place to rent when I came home.
When your time in Europe was done, did they start gearing you up to go to the Pacific? Because we still had a few more months
They
to go.
had taken all us gunners and put us over in a base, and they were going to send us back to the States and retrain us for B-29s and go to the South Pacific. But while we were there, they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and